So good morning, everybody. It looks like there's a number of you in the waiting room and you're getting online slowly here. So today is number 3 in the Randonneurs USA Paris-Brest Paris Prep series. This webinar, as advertised, is going to have a presentation from a trio of people that will be covering drop bag services at the event. And then they'll be followed by Mark Thomas, who will be talking about next steps and current situation with pre-registration. And there'll be implications for full registration in all of that. So if we can start going here, I want to introduce the first group here. We have Deb Banks, we have Eric Norris, and we have Bill Green, 3 of the 4 principals. The 4th is off riding his bike somewhere in Texas. Deb, Eric, and Bill will be offering drop bag services, and they have a presentation to roll that out to you guys here. So if we can get started, Deb, did you want to lead off your group, please?
Sure. Thanks a lot, Rob, and good morning, everybody. Eric, if you're ready to share screen, that'd be great. We'll just go from there.
All right, we'll see that?
Yep, we sure can.
Good.
Thank you. What that picture is a picture of the Loudeac drop bag in service in 2007. When you look at this, maybe again later, what you'll see is that there are color-coded tags on bags, but we'll get to that a little bit later. First off, I just want to say we're really excited about doing this. And the reason why we decided to do this is because, frankly, none of us wanted to ride PBP this year, but we all wanted to be a part of it in some way, shape, or form. And what better way to do that than to volunteer? And we were out on a bike ride at one point or having coffee. I can't remember. We were thinking about, well, how best to volunteer, similar to the way Lois and Bill Springsteen did. It was so exciting for riders to see them. They'd come upon them like, a friendly face, someone we know. And we thought, well, how about if we do bag drop service, and then we'll help people get their bags. We'll be able to see them. We get to be a part. And that's how this whole idea was born. Next slide. So here's the team. Mark Baining, who's off-riding his bike right now in Texas. Bill Green, who's on the call with us here today. Myself, and Eric Norris. And between the 4 of us, we think we have at least 14 PBPs, many other 1,200 Ks, but we've been to France a number of times. Next slide. All right, Eric.
Okay, thanks, Deb. Yeah, well, as Deb mentioned, we thought this would be a great way to stay, to be involved in PBP this year. And I think we also want to do this because we all firmly believe in the value of having a drop bag out on the course. You can absolutely do PBP without a drop bag. I mean, I've seen people do it with just a seat bag, but having a drop bag is really great. And we'll go into a little bit about what that means. So if you haven't done PBP before, as Deb mentioned, there are things called drop bags, which is basically just a duffel bag that is taken out on the course for you. And we're offering a service. I mean, some people have a friend do it. Some of the other countries will have a club and they'll meet the riders out there. But this is a service that we're offering to initially everybody in RUSA to take a drop bag out there and have it for you. So what is a drop bag? Well, if you saw the picture, we're talking about basically a small duffel bag or like a gym bag, about 2 cubic feet. Our recommendation to you, and Deb will talk about this a little bit more later, is to pick something brightly colored that you can pick apart from all the other drop bags. It's kind of interesting. The Japanese crew, I've got a photograph or some pictures from an earlier PBP. They all had exactly the same bag, the same size, the same color, just with a number on it. But we're suggesting for our crew that you pick out something that you can find in that sea of bags. Also recommend that it be waterproof or water resistant. The picture that Deb showed from 2007, what it didn't show was the water running down the ground because it the bags that year were under an overhang, but it was raining that year pretty heavily. Everything got wet. So I'll talk in a minute about what to have in your bag, but the bag and hopefully everything in it should be packed in a way that they're waterproof. So what do we recommend that you put in your bag? Now, first of all, I mentioned if you want to go and see a longer video that I did about this a few years ago, go to YouTube, look for PBP tips. You'll find my whole playlist of a whole bunch of videos about preparing for PBP, and I did one just on drop bags. But really briefly, recommend that you carry 2 changes of clothes in that drop bag. As Deb mentioned, this is about a third of the way out on the course. Many people use this to sleep at, but whether you sleep or not, this is a great chance to take everything off and put fresh stuff on. Especially if you're going to sleep, put it on before you go to sleep. You'll be a lot more comfortable. You will get smelly and dirty out there, so good chance of change. Batteries and taillights, definitely something. If anything on your bike runs on batteries, or if you're carrying a power bank with you to charge your phone or your computer, whatever, stick another couple in your drop bag and switch them out. Even if they're not depleted, just put a new one in every time. A big power bank. I usually carry about a 10,000 milliamp one, which is about the size of a kind of a heavy cell phone. You can get bigger ones. Get there, plug your stuff into the bigger one, take your computer off the bike, stick it in the bag, plug it in, plug your phone in, anything else that can charge off that power bank, and let it charge while it's in the bag. Don't count on finding power outlets there, because you won't find them. Even if they're there, they're going to be taken up by somebody else. Bring toiletries or body wipes. They do have showers there in Loudeac. If you want to take a shower, I think it costs like €1, something like that. They'll give you a big disposable towel to dry off with. But if you want to bring any of your own, toothbrush, soap, whatever, stick it in your drop bag. I like body wipes. I used these the last time I did PBP. They're just big wet wipes. Carry a bunch of these. I mean, they weigh almost nothing. It's faster than taking a shower, and you get almost as clean, and you avoid all the having to dry off kind of stuff. Carry spares in your drop bag. So maybe a couple tubes, a spare tire. If you want to throw like a chain in there, things that you may not want to carry all the time on the bike, but if you use a tube out on the road, come back, you get the Loudeac, replace that tube if you use a tire or whatever. Stuff that you don't want to have to carry for the whole 1200K. Food and drink, but I say here within limits, because you are at Loudeac. It is a control. They have a cafeteria. They've got all kinds of stuff there for you. But if you get there, particularly if you're just going to go sleep, I found it works really well to maybe have, like an Ensure or something like that, something to nibble on. So you get there, change your clothes, nibble on something, go sleep, and then maybe when you wake up, go get more food. Just a way to get through the control faster. And as I said, put everything in Ziploc bags. So what I do is I'll put like a change of clothes into a big Ziploc bag. It's got a big number on it, like number 2, number 3. Everything in that bag should be in Ziplocs, just in case it gets rainy and wet. Deb already showed this, but this is a picture again of where the drop bags all are. And you can see here, this is actually the USA portion, and you'll see that they're all, all kind of differently colored and so on. Anything that's going to help you pick out your bag in a dimly lit, chaotic, crowded situation like this is going to be good. Deb, do you want to pick up this part? You're muted, Deb.
Thanks. While Eric just spoke quite a bit about gym bags and duffel bags, etc., for me, I like the idea of using a backpack. That way I could pick it up, sling it on my back, especially if I was staying someplace outside of Loudeac, because you're going to want to take your bag someplace, wherever your hotel is, and then maybe carry it back. We did speak to a couple of people that have a hotel perhaps in Loudeac, and they're going to take their drop bag, take it to their hotel, leave it in their hotel until they're on the return to France, or on the return to Paris, sorry, and then return the drop bag to the drop bag service and then continue on, which is totally fine. But I like the idea of carrying something really bright, have it like the bags in the back, maybe put reflective tape on it because that is a dim room. And if you are carrying a light or were carrying a light, then you can see it easily. And I just lastly, which of the bags here don't belong? Look at that Carrefour bag in the front of that picture. Full disclosure, I once used something like that as a drop bag on a domestic 1200K that I was doing. And I'm ashamed that I did it. But in my defense, I had just taken possession of a brand new house the day before and had to haul down to where the start was. And I was a disaster. The organizers were fabulous, and my drop bag actually made it. This, similar to a Carrefour bag, but it is not what we're looking for here, not in the least. So go for the brightly colored, zippered, easy to carry bags. And don't be like I was, the schmo who carried a shopping bag as their drop bag, because guess what? We won't accept it. Okay, let's go on. All right. Here's the plan to date as we know it. Thanks everybody who sent responses to the survey that we sent out. I don't know, a couple months or so ago. We had about 300 people that responded to that survey. The majority of people were 90-hour folks or people that are aspiring to ride the 90 hours. There were some 84 hours and 80-hour people in there as well. If you are planning on trying to Charlie Miller, I'm telling you right now, this drop bag service is not for you. So if you're trying to Charlie Miller, this is probably not your best gig. But for everybody else, we think that we can accommodate everybody. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to set up a registration that's electronic. We've set the price at $75 for one bag. And we've just talked about the size of bags and about what that should look like. And we're going to have registration open in June. We're thinking about June because by then, almost everybody will have a much better picture about whether or not they're going or not, if they've qualified or not, if they're feeling healthy or not, they still are interested or not, etc. You get the gist. And that will all be electronic. We would prefer not to take day of registrations. So once we're in France and somebody comes up to us and says, I never got around to it, will you take our drop bag? We will, only in the event that we have space. So the pre-registration allows us to really calculate the size of the van and how many bags we can take, which leads me to my next point. We are thinking that we will be renting two vans, which approximately can carry between the two vans, 300 to 350 bags. That's not everybody who's probably going to PBP with Randonneurs USA, but it might be. We'll see. We'll find out. Okay, once we are all in Rambouillet, we are hoping for bag drop-off to be on the grounds in Rambouillet. I know that we're not having a specific check-in this year like they have in years past, but there is still a festival going on, the Concours de Machines that's going on. There will be people from all over, and there's sort of this large gathering place, and I'm assuming that that's about where we're going to be this year as we were 4 years ago. Our exact location, we don't know yet. However, we are going to have the big RUSA banner that you're seeing on this slide. We're taking that with us, and we'll have that up on the van, so you will not be able to miss us. And hopefully we'll know exactly where we are prior to getting to Rambouillet, and we'll be able to tell everybody, look for us here in the parking lot as you're walking to the central space or within those large grounds. Either way, we think that's probably where we'll end up. However, we don't know yet. A detail still to be nailed down. Once you come and find us, you're going to drop your bag off. We're going to tag it. We're going to give you a wristband. And that way, when we're hoping you're just going to wear that wristband, and that way, when we find you in Loudeac, then, or you find us in Loudeac, we'll easily be able to match your wristband with your number, help you find your bag, get it into your hands, and then off you go. And so the exciting thing we think about Loudeac is that you get access to your bag twice, on the outbound and on the inbound. And as I just said earlier, if you decide that you want to, if you have a hotel or something in Loudeac and you want to take it there and leave it there, That's fine with us, as long as you get it back to us before we are heading back to Rambouillet at the end of when the Loudeac control closes. That's when we're going to leave as well. So you look for the RUSA banner, you find us, we give you a hug, we give you your bag, and you're off on your way. Bags will not be left alone. There will always be somebody there with them. We have 4 of us so that we can schlep all the bags, get them there, get them situated, but then also keep an eye on them. And we'll be working in teams. So it'll probably be Mark and myself and Eric and Bill. But one of the 4 of us for sure will always be in the bag drop space. So while they're inside of the grounds in Loudeac, we'll also be with them. So they're going to be safe and sound. Once you're past Loudeac and you're on your way back to Paris, back to Rambouillet, we will scoop all the bags up as soon as the Loudeac control closes, and we will drive back to Rambouillet. And then again, we'll have the big RUSA banner out. And after you're done riding, you'll be able to access your drop bag. So you'll be able to retrieve it in the same place, hopefully, from where you dropped it off. This is another reason why I like the backpack idea. You'll have your bike, maybe you put your drop bag on your back, and it's easy to walk through the grounds and get to wherever you need to go. Okay, next slide. I know that was a lot.
Yeah, well, before we leave the slide, just back on the backpack thing, probably your best way to get the bags to us is when you go for bike check, because you're going to have to go right by where we are. If you've been there before, if you go to the train station, between there and where you check in is where we're going to be. There's a RV parking area. So something you can carry on your bike while you're riding it, like a backpack, is going to be perfect. So it's just a good rule of thumb. If it's too big and too bulky to carry while you're riding your bike from the train station to bike check, it's probably too big.
Eric, just an interjection here. I don't think that there is a specific bike check before PBP. I think that they are intending to do that out on the course. This would prevent people from getting their bike checked and then removing the things that were required because they want to be lighter.
Okay. Well, then you'll need to find us.
Yeah,
but we'll be there.
Yeah.
There'll be some other form of check-in, I imagine.
Right. So, so there's a lot of what ifs here, and I'm going to try to go over them fairly quickly. What if I don't qualify? Can I get a refund? Answer is no. That's one of the reasons why we're moving this out to June. We figure by then you'll have a pretty darn good idea whether or not you're going to be able to get to France. What if I DNF? Will you get my bags back to me sooner so I can get moving? No. We're taking care of all of the people that have this service from us. So when Loudeac closes, that is when we'll leave. If you get back before us, that's great. Rest, drink a beer, sleep, hang out with people, and we'll get there as soon as we can. What if I forget to pick up my bag? Will you send it to me? No, we won't. We expect to go on to other vacations or get back to the United States. So when the whole PBP closes, which I believe is Saturday, we are going to be giving your leftover drop bag to some French kids. No, not really, but we'll figure out if there's some kind of a lost and found. But your best plan for this is to not leave it. So I know everybody's groggy and super tired when you get back, but you got to remember, hey, I've got these really stinky clothes and an old tire in a drop bag. I need to retrieve it. Okay, what if I overpack? Can I purchase a service for 2 drop bags? No, we're going for 1 medium drop bag. That'll be easier for you to manage and a lot easier for us to manage. Someone has asked in the chat, is there a weight limit on these bags? And the answer is not a hard and fast one, but if I can't pick it up and I'm an old lady with bad hands now, then guess what? It might not make it out to Loudeac. So please be conscientious about how much you put in those drop bags and how heavy they are. Be really thrifty about weight. All right. What if I'm staying outside of Rambouillet? Will you drop it off at my hotel? No, we're not doing a specific service for folks of that nature. There are some other people that are going to be vendors for a drop bag service. You may want them to use their service instead of ours. And you can do a little search on figuring out who some of those people are. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what their names are because I'm really focused on what we're going to provide for you guys. All right. What if I leave my bag in my hotel in or near Loudeac? Will you get it for me? No. Take it to wherever you're staying. Bring it back to us. Pretty straightforward. Tandem riders, 2 bags. Yes, Brent, because each person gets a bag. It's 1 bag per person. That's what we're shooting for. What if you get to Loudeac before? What if you get back to Loudeac before we do? We will get there as soon as we can and get your bags back to you. What if you get to Loudeac before we do? Then we're not going to try to hold you up. We will try to get your bag to you as fast as we can. We can't not actually completely promise things because there's a lot of variables. Maybe there's a road closure or flooding, who knows what's going to go on, but we're going to do our darndest to get bags out there before anybody arrives in Loudeac on the outbound. Okay, next.
I'm sorry, I was muted. What about the last bullet there, Deb, about getting back to Rambouillet first?
If you get back to Rambouillet before bag drop arrives, hang out, wait. Because we're getting there as soon as possible. Remember, we're going to have to load up all 300 bags and then unload them again once we get back to Rambouillet. So we should be okay. And there is somebody on the Zoom that says finding bags in Loudeac can be a pain, and that's true. And I just recently had a horrible bag situation with an airline, and it took 3 weeks for the bag to finally get back to me. And if I had put an Apple AirTag in it, this was the big hello, then I would have been able to find my bag. And that's the tip here, is to put an Apple AirTag in your bag, because in that sea of bags, you'll be able to say, I see it. I can help you get to it. AirTags are fabulous. So more details are coming as we can, as they're coming our way, we'll get them to you. But you can look for information from us from between the controls, from the RUSA Facebook page, from the RBAs. We will be pushing out information to RBAs and dispersing that information from them, hopefully to you all. And then from us, we just created an email address specific for this, and it's pbp23bagdrop@gmail.com. And that way you'll get to one of us and we will get back to you with any information and questions that you might have. Eric, did you want to add something?
I was going to say, if you put an AirTag in there, I know I've got an iPhone. I think most of us have iPhones. You can watch your bags drive across France too. Kind of fun. So if you're wondering, is my bag going to get to Loudeac before I am? You can just say, find my AirTag, and then you'll know.
You'll know exactly where it is.
Yep. There was one question, a couple questions in the chat. One was just a suggestion to put a towel in the bag. That's great. Those big paper towels are kind of fun, but they do tend to fall apart. So you might want to think about putting a towel in your bag, and again, put it in a Ziploc bag. And then Jack Holmgren asked, what is reality? Jack, that's a great question, which we'll delve into in another more esoteric version of this chat.
So Eric, if your presentation is done,
yeah,
if you could stop sharing the screen.
There we go.
Great. Okay, so what we'll do is, at this point, I'd like to ask any of the participants, if you have more questions about the drop bag service and the presentation today, go ahead and add those to the Q&A function right now. Most of those were answered, most of those that were collected so far were answered in sort of real time by Deb and by Eric. But nevertheless, while Mark is giving his presentation, you can send more questions about the drop bag presentation. And what we'll do is have Deb, Eric, and Bill read the best or the most frequent questions that come up aloud so that they will be part of this recording, and then they'll provide answers as well. Pardon me. So next up, we have Mark Thomas, who will be talking about next steps for pre-registration and implications for final registration. And while he's speaking, again, if you have questions, send them into the Q&A function. And while Mark is presenting, Deb, Eric, and Bill will look those questions over and be prepared to read them into the recording that we're making here. So Mark, if I can turn this over to you.
Okay, thanks, Rob. I think most people know I'll talk endlessly about PBP. I have a kind of a dry subject today, which is pre-registration and registration and next steps. So with any luck, I will figure out how to share my
Looks good.
Screen here. And let's see. So pre-registration, I'm going to guess that most of the people on the call have pre-registered for PBP already, but if you haven't, you can. It's currently open to all riders, regardless of whether you rode a brevet last year or not. Pre-registration is kind of fullish in terms of picking a start slot. As of yesterday, midday is the last time I looked, there were 19 spaces available for 80-hour starts. They were at 6:30, 4:30, 4:45, and 5. There were a few spaces left for 90-hour starts, but they were exclusively in the F group for special bikes, for tandems and recumbents, et cetera. So if you want a 90-hour start, there's no start time that you can pick at this point. There's still quite a few spaces available for 84-hour starts, both for special bikes and for regular bikes. The last two starts have quite a few spaces available in them. They've taken, as of yesterday, 113 riders who said they wanted to do 90 hours, but didn't choose a start group. And we'll get to that in a minute in terms of what's going to happen with that, but they will be given a start group later. Just so you know, they've announced a limit of 8,000 participants for PBP. It's currently a little oversubscribed. I think I saw 8,025 pre-registrants. Based on past experience, the ACP expect a bunch of pre-registrants not to register, so they're allowing some oversubscription at this point. The current working cap looks, from what I've seen, to be about 8,300. In 2019, there were quite a few pre-registrants who didn't register. It was around 20% of the people who pre-registered not register. So it's reasonable to expect that a lot of slots will open up. I think if you want to go to PBP and you qualify, you're almost certainly going to get a slot in it, but that's just my guess. To be sure, I would suggest pre-registering now to hold a spot. If you have looked at pre-registration, you know that it's a €50 fee to pre-register, and that's not refundable. So I mean, that's not nothing, but it's not a huge amount to hold the space. So that's pre-registration. The next business, if you're pre-registered, is to get yourself qualified and to register. And I'll talk a little bit about registration, but let's talk first about what you need to do to qualify to go. And the rule says you have to have completed a Super Randonneur Brevet Series. That's a 200K, a 300K, a 400K, and a 600K of ACP sanctioned brevets in 2023. First point, that 2023 is a term of art. That doesn't mean what you think it means. It means between November 1st, 2022 and June 30th, 2023. So you need, many people have done some of the brevets or one of the brevets already, or maybe got some of them done last year. A lot of eager beavers may have already achieved all of their qualifiers. They also allow longer events to substitute for shorter ones. So you could do 2 300s, a 400, and a 600. The ACP sanctions 1,000K brevets. You could do 4 of those if you're particularly eager. I'll say that brevets, to me, are not really just for qualification. Of course, that's pretty important, but I think they're also great testing and training opportunities, a good chance to try to ride the bike the way you think it'll be ridden. Try to feed yourself the way you think you're going to have to feed yourself. You know, carry the stuff you expect to carry on a longer brevet. This is a good chance to test it, especially on the 400 or 600 where you're riding a long time. Get some idea of how all of this is going to work. And of course, brevets are fun. That's, I think, why we do this. Just to clarify one thing, the key word in what I said about what you need to qualify is that they have to be ACP sanctioned brevets. And if you have any doubt about whether a ride you're doing in the US is an ACP sanctioned brevet, use the ride search on the website to confirm the event type. And what you'll see if you look at events, and here's a smattering of April events, you'll see that it gives you the location, the type of event, and the date and the distance. So the only ones that count are the ones that say ACP brevet there under the type. If they say RUSA something, RUSA Populaire, RUSA brevet, they can't be used to qualify. If they say ACP Flesh, 360K, it doesn't matter if you rode 400K, you can't use it. You can't use it for any event. UAF brevets, there are a few of those around the country, which is the Loudeac style brevets, they don't count. And what's a surprise to some people is that 1200Ks, the quick and dirty that Mark's riding in Texas, although I think he's riding 1,000, but 1200Ks don't count either. They're sanctioned by another group. So don't plan to use a 1200K as one of your events. If you, scheduling wise, you need to do it, see if there's a 1000K option that you can use during that event. So in May, they're going to open PBP for registration. It's going to be done the same way you pre-registered. You go to the same website, use the same login credentials, and what you'll need are, the term they use is homologation numbers. On the RUSA website, your results will say certificate number, but you need the homologation numbers of at least 3 of your 4 qualifying brevets to initiate your final registration. If you just have 2, you're going to have to wait until you have a 3rd one to start. And when you do it, you can either put 3 in and add the 4th later, or you can just complete the whole thing with all 4 steps. I think they finalized the registration fee at 190 euros. If you've pre-registered and paid 50, that's a credit against the 190. And when you register, if you don't like the start time that you picked at registration, you can change that at pre-registration. You can change that start wave subject to whatever places are available then. And I'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute. So the timetable, these are the dates you need to know. On May 27th, registration opens. Before then, relax, ride your bike. There's nothing you can do with your PBP registration. On June 10th, if you pre-registered and you have not yet started your registration with 3 of your 4 brevets, you're going to lose your start wave choice. They're going to release that start wave to the pool of other riders. Your space in the event is not lost on the 10th, but when you do register, you're going to have to choose from whatever is available at that time. The release start wave slots, when they get released on June 10th, I think they're going to be allocated to riders who chose 90 hours but didn't choose the start wave because none of them were available. That was, like I said, about 115 of those yesterday. After that allocation, the remaining release start wave slots will be available to riders who want to change their start wave choice from what they made earlier. And just to point out that if you want to meet this June 10th deadline and not have your slot given up, your 3rd qualifier, assuming it's on a weekend, should be no later than the weekend of June 3rd. And even that's requiring that you get the ride done, the RB gets your results in, RUSA submits and gets the certificate number published. That should happen okay for June 3rd brevets, but it could be a little tight. June 20th, according to the emails we all got with our pre-registrations, if you haven't registered, they're just going to cancel your registration. That's what they said. That was before they announced the June 10th thing. I'm not 100% sure that's still the way it's going to work, but I think so. If you want to meet that June 20th deadline, it's possible you could meet it with a brevet done the weekend of June 17th and 18th. But again, that'll be even tighter because it's just basically you need the 19th for all of the RUSA RBA magic to happen. On June 25th, that's the last day you can tell the ACP you don't want to go and cancel your registration and get a refund of your registration fee, less $50, 50 euros, which it is not refundable. July 2nd is the final deadline for registering. If you haven't registered by then, you can't register. If you've initiated your registration with just 3 of your braves, but haven't put your 4th one in, you better put the 4th one in by then, or you're not going to be registered. And again, to make this happen, your last brevet, your 4th brevet, pretty much has to be no later than the weekend of June 24th and 25th. I know a lot of people were not particularly pleased with how quickly start waves filled up, especially if they didn't have longer brevets last year. And so what they've said is that you can change start waves, sorry about this, at registration subject to available places. In the past, after you completed your registration, the ACP validated it, you can't change your start wave anymore. So you might kind of wonder, well, what happens here if I have to register before June 10th, but the slots aren't released, then what? And so I asked them that question, and what they said, it appears that they're going to allow an option for you to register and say, I don't like my start wave, I want to change it when more start waves are available. And what they said, I quoted exactly what the email from ACP said this morning, which is between May 27th and June 10th, they won't validate your registration if you say, hey, I still want to change my start. So it should be that on June 10th, a bunch of start times will be available and you should have some opportunity to change it if either you're in the group that didn't pick one or you got one that you didn't like. I think that's all I had to say about it.
Great. Thank you, Mark. One question that I have, which hasn't been asked in the Q&A function, is do you know how to navigate to the point where you would make some of these changes? For example, in communication with the ACP, they referred to a cancel button, which I was unable to find in going to my account and logging in. I couldn't find a cancel button, but I did find a delete button for the account, which I think was a bit too drastic sounding and not what they were referring to.
The answer is I don't know exactly, but what you'll see when you go into register will be a screen that doesn't exist yet.
Oh, okay.
Which is a registration screen to register. And I think at that point, you'll have a different set of options than you had in pre-registration. And it may, in fact, include a cancel my pre-registration or delete button, but I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay. If you could stop sharing your screen then. Thanks. So we, I guess, should be commending Deb, Eric, and Bill for an excellent presentation because precious few questions have come up. Looks like there's a couple more in there. So Deb will be reading those and perhaps adding something that maybe occurred to them after they finish their presentation. And while they're doing that, Mark will be looking at the Q&A questions that have come in about his topic. And then once Deb, Eric, and Bill are done answering the questions, Mark will chime in for that. So Deb, if you had any questions that you thought were really excellent questions and you wanted to reiterate anything, please do that.
Thanks, Rob. There is one question from Keith. That's a great question. And he asks about the drop bag weight limitation that Klaus, who used to do bag drop service for us for PBP, what that bag drop limitation was. And I don't know the answer to that. I just know that I had a day pack that was packed full and I could carry it on my back without too much trouble. Eric, do you have any idea, or Bill, might you remember any of us on the panel?
I don't. If you start packing it full of, you know, a 12 pack of cans of Ensure, it's probably going to start getting too heavy.
Yeah.
But if you carry just normal stuff, you know, that we were talking about, clothes and towel and batteries and whatever, you'll be fine. just keep in mind that between 4 of us, we're going to be carrying like, 350 of these things. So make our lives a little bit easier. Yeah, glad you're strong.
No, I started this presentation by saying I'm a weak old lady. That's the only question that we had. And the only other thing I want to say is that hang in there with us. We are a first time at providing the service. However, the organization I work with does a service similar to this all the time, only usually parking bikes. I parked 400 bikes yesterday at a Century. So we know the system. We just are bringing it to France to implement it here for you all, and that we're really excited. So that's it on our end, I think.
Before we turn it over to Mark to cover any of the Q&A that he wants to address, there's one thing that I wanted to bring up on behalf of the people that are offering this drop bag service. And that is this. So I've heard more than once that supporting somebody riding PBP is nearly as exhausting as it is to ride it. And so keep that in mind, along with keeping in mind that nobody's going to be getting rich doing this drop bag service. And this is largely a volunteer effort here. So I imagine that much of this is directed at covering costs. So please keep that in mind, and keep in mind that these volunteers in particular, by the time they get back to Rambouillet, they're going to be nearly as tired, if not more tired than you are. There's some long nights involved. So please keep that in mind.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Rob. I appreciate that. We definitely are not making money on this jaunt. That's not the purpose of it at all. We're not a for-profit organization. That's not it. We are doing this because we want to be a part of the party. We don't want to ride, but we know that what we're doing is a service to all you guys, and that hopefully it helps you be as successful with your ride as it has been in the past for us. So that's why we're there.
Super.
Yeah, and I think Deb mentioned it's always great when you're over there in the middle of everything else to see a friendly face who speaks English, who knows their way around. So we all, we look forward to meeting you guys all over there and helping you however we can.
All right. Well, thank you guys. So Mark, did you have any really good Q&A submissions for your coverage?
As best I can tell, I didn't have any. So
yeah, there were a number of comments more than questions.
So I would like to point out just one thing, which is that everything I said is unofficial.
Right.
The source for information about PBP is the ACP, their website, any official communications from them, their emails to you. Anything I say or you see on the RUSA site or the PBP prep group is somebody guessing or giving you their best information about what the ACP says. But don't say, well, RUSA said this.
Right.
I had a funny experience with running into somebody who was unhappy with how LEL was organized and said that they were going to quit RUSA, perhaps not realizing that RUSA has nothing to do with that event or specifically with the PBP. So take that if you're watching this later and looking at these pieces of information that I put up, double check with the PBP website, make sure that that's still correct.
Thanks, Mark. There was a comment that I wanted to make relative to your presentation, and that would be the timing issue. You mentioned a number of deadlines and also very rightly pointed out that people might be cutting things very close if they were going up to the end of that time limit. And I realized I forgot to introduce myself at the beginning of this, and I'll do that now and then give you some context for why I want to bring this up. So my name is Rob Hawks. I am the RUSA brevet coordinator, which means that it's my job, along with several other members of the committee, to take the results that are filed by RBAs, send them over to the ACP database, upload them, collect the certification numbers and then bring them back to the RUSA database and add them in there. We have a plan for addressing the crunch times as they're coming up according to these deadlines that Mark brought out. And so we are going to have as up-to-date as possible people's qualifiers leading up to May 27th, for example, and then between May 27th and the end of June, we're working toward keeping everything as up-to-date as is possible. Our work depends on the work of others upstream. Those others would be the RBAs. And also keep in mind, when Mark gave weekend dates for when events could happen, if you're riding a 600K starting on June 24th, it doesn't mean that June 24th is when those results can be submitted, because we all know 600Ks take a long time, and then it takes time for the RBA to collect everything. So it's not going to be until somewhat later than the 24th that I could even get those results and send them over to the ACP and then bring them back. So hopefully that gives some background context for people.
I'll also point out with respect to those deadlines that May 27th, when registration opens, is not a time that there's any real reason to slam onto the website at 12 noon Paris time, because there's nothing really that happens on the 27th that you can do that you couldn't do on the 28th, the 29th.
Exactly. Yeah. In fact,
to relax a little bit about the 27th, the key date to keep in mind is June 10th. You want to get that registration started sometime between the 27th and the 10th.
Yeah. So you have approximately 2 weeks, a 2-week window to do that. And there's no advantage to be gained by doing it on the 27th that you don't still have on the 9th of June. So I think that would be a wrap for today, unless anybody here on the panel has anything more to add.
There was one more question in the chat.
Great.
Which controls have sleeping accommodations? I don't know the full answer to that. I know Loudeac does. I think Tinteniac, Brest. I know you can sleep in Carré because I've slept on the floor there. Any others that you guys remember?
I understand that there's something, or there has been in the past, at St. Nicholas de Pelham, which is after Carré outbound and before Carré inbound.
Right, and Mortain has sleeping because I've slept.
Yes, exactly, and that would be important for the return only. It's unlikely to be needed outbound.
Yes, I've slept there. I remember they were a little bit different. They gave you like a 1/2-inch thick yoga pad to sleep on, which was not the most comfortable thing.
Yeah,
but you
I understand there's also something at Kidliak.
I think that's correct. They had sleeping available at St. Nicholas and Kediak. The interesting changes to this year's routes is that you only pass those once. So St. Nicholas will be available outbound and Kediak will be available inbound. St. Nicholas is between outbound, it's past Loudeac on the way to Carré. Kediak on the way inbound is after Loudeac and on the way to Tinteniac.
Yeah,
Great.
and I only used it once, but I slept 1 year in Milan. They had a dorm in
Yes, I slept there once in 2015 as well.
Yeah. So I think you'll find plenty of opportunities to sleep. And then there's other times. I slept on the floor of a bar one time. They just had a sign out, come sleep out, out of the rain. There's plenty of places to find rest.
Or on a hay bale.
On a hay bale by the side of the road. A ditch.
This is
that's the classic experience, isn't it? All right. Well, thank you, everybody. We will conclude this. And for those that have watched this live today, and you want to tell your friend, well, you want to rewatch it, or you want to tell your friends to watch, I'm hoping to get this wrapped up later today or early this coming week. So it should be up on YouTube very soon. And I will send out the link as soon as I have it to the places that I've advertised that this webinar was happening. All right, thanks everybody, and have a great day.